Welcome back to the Capital Contribution, the show that showcases entrepreneurs leaving their W-2 jobs, the safety, security, comfort of the W-2 world, and entering self-employment and all that journey that it takes. Today's episode is special to me. The owners of WilkinGuttenplan, the accounting firm that I had the pleasure of working at for a year and a half, both are Eds. What was your slogan? 2 Eds are better than 1?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that. I was really excited about having you guys on because you guys have this kind of upper edge in the accounting firm world. You're consistently rated one of the top, even number one, on what was the publication, accounting?
It's been both NJ Biz.
Yeah.
We were number 1 twice. That's
Wow.
all businesses in New Jersey.
Wow.
And for Accounting Today magazine,
That's
which
right.
is the national accounting magazine, we were number 1 there twice also,
Yeah,
in addition to being in both of those every year.
incredible.
I want to
Yeah.
just clarify.
Go ahead.
While Ed and I are a bit of the nucleus that started this,
Mm-hmm.
there are 24 partners in the firm.
That's
So
right.
we are a village that has moved in unison together in what we created.
And that is exactly the journey and an amazing segue into kind of where I want to go with this whole thing. And a lot of other guests that I've had on the show, they're usually a one-man shop or a two-man shop that have grown and are telling their stories about, growing their businesses from the W-2 world, similar to me. And again, the whole concept of my show started with me. I left an accounting firm that I was working at, making $145,000 a year, comfortable, it's great. And I left that into the wilderness of self-employment. And I remember when I was working at WilkinGuttenplan, your journeys were somewhat similar in the fact that you guys worked together, if I remember. Who's manager? Who was the manager?
Ed was my boss.
Ed was, wow, okay.
Where we worked before.
Where you worked before, yeah.
The last time it happened.
So this is exactly kind of this journey, especially to me, having been so close to the fact that I worked at the firm that you guys have built with your own hands, so to speak, and made it into a village, because it has to start. It is now almost a self-running operation, but it had to start somewhere, and this is exactly where I want to go with this. So I'm going to have Boss Man over here start us off. Tell us the journey. Where did you go to school? And how did you get started in the accounting world? I said it 80s in the email, but you corrected me. Well, feel free to tell me the real numbers. So go ahead, tell us the story.
Yeah, so I grew up in upstate New York on a horse farm and applied to 3 different colleges. I always enjoyed numbers and I figured why not try accounting. So I went to Rider. It was Rider College at the time, now Rider University. And it was very interesting times, the early 70s, with the Vietnam War and streaking and everything else that was going on in school.
Wild times.
Wild times. So, and Rider was known back then. It was one of the top 10 party schools in the country. So that had nothing to do with my decision going there.
Not
it
at
had
all.
a great reputation for accounting, and it really is great. And believe it or not, today we have an amazing relationship with the university with our recruitment process. But so I graduated, I went to my senior year, and I did like everybody else did. Went to the interviews with the Big 8 back then.
That's right, the Big 8.
And got rejected from every one of them.
Ouch.
It was a very terrible employment period of time, the early to mid 70s.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't remember exactly how I got to the firm that I went to, but I went on an interview. Small firm. It had like 6 partners and like 8 staff. And they said, sure, we'd love to hire you. And by the way, why don't you start working right away part-time? So while I was still, I worked there until I graduated, and
Wow.
and it was totally different back then. Back then, you learned from experience. They'd give you a bag of records, give you last year's file, do the financials and tax returns, and it was
Interesting.
It was interesting. It was a great way to learn. Of course, the interesting thing back then is they had the general ledgers are not on computer screens.
Yeah.
They were in these things where you open up the bolts to put pages in.
Oh,
and
man.
They give you a little jar of whiteout to clean up your mistakes and,
Interesting. Was it the green paper?
huh?
Was it the green paper?
Well, the green paper is what you did your trial balances and things on.
Okay.
The ledger pages were,
Wow.
it was
So,
cool, very cool.
so then the firm that you were at, that you're describing, is where you,
We
Ed,
met.
I met Ed.
that you met Ed. Okay, so now go ahead, Ed. Where did you go to school? And
So I
tell
grew
me
up
your-
in Long Branch,
Oh,
down at
wow.
the shore.
Okay.
My parents had a bakery, and they loved their accountant.
Wow.
And they said, it's a great thing for you to go into. You get a job, it's a good profession, and they
Yeah.
encouraged me to do that. So I listened to them. I was a good boy.
That's good.
So I went on to Boston University.
Wow.
I went there for my undergraduate and my master's, or my MBA. While I was going for my MBA, I worked there. So I worked there for 2 years in the controller's office, and then ultimately decided I wanted public accounting. I got a job with Price Waterhouse in Boston,
Oh, wow.
where I worked for 3.5 years, then transferred to the New York office because my wife and I got married and wanted to move back home. I worked there 1.5 years. I always wanted to be in a small business environment. I wanted to be the kind of accountant that my parents looked up to and
Yeah.
help them with their problems. I always asked for the smaller clients at Price Waterhouse, which for Price Waterhouse, small client isn't so
Yeah, it was
small.
still not. Yeah, yeah.
Big client for us.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
I eventually said it's time for me to really pursue what I was after, and I went and joined the firm that Ed was at when they were a little bigger than when he started.
Right.
And that's where we met.
Yeah.
And
That's amazing. So, and it's actually, it's funny you said that. I didn't know that about you, that you always wanted to be in a small business. And I resonate with that tremendously. That throughout my career, after I graduated and I went out to be in the big firms, I was at EY, Eisner Amper, WilkinGuttenplan, Cohen Resnick, Witham, and then eventually my own firm. But the entire journey of that was me seeking to be in those smaller business environments. And the thing is, I'm sure you experience the same concept. When you're good, you are always put on the bigger clients. The better you are, the more beneficial it is to the firm for you to be working on, bigger clients and be better for the firm, for the clients, and for what we're working with. So I love that. That's kind of where my journey took me, and eventually to my own firm. You started working together, and how long did you work together?
2 years.
2 years, wow. So you started working, were you always directly, were you his staff at the time? Or?
No,
or-
he was a senior manager, so.
Oh, okay, at the time, right.
Yeah.
So you were.
And I was probably just became partner.
Oh, wow.
When he joined the firm.
You're just about to be a partner, you're a senior manager, and you're working together, and at what point, this is one of my favorite questions, because I've had this point, right? At what point did you feel like, let's go together and do this?
so after being at that firm for a while, I still had the dream of wanting to do my own firm.
Nice.
And Ed and I were talking at one point, because something happened in the firm, and we said, there's got to be a better way to treat people, better way to develop staff, better way to just treat people.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it happened, but we said, we ought to do this ourselves, if we could do it
I
better.
don't remember exactly when but it wasn't that long before we did it.
No.
Yeah.
A couple months.
We probably both were thinking of it, and then
Wow.
it just came out of one conversation, and we said, yeah, we should.
That's
do this.
amazing. I think that's one of the coolest things, especially when it comes to a partnership of two, because you have to be on the same page, as far as how you want to launch your business, what your goals are, and I think you guys are aligned. And to this day, it is a staff first, our employees are first, and that was always your priority. That's how I felt, when I was at the firm, and that to have that mentality in the 80s, right, when the culture, how I understand it, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure the culture in the accounting firm was quite opposite of that. In your stereotypical, everybody is, hours, grind, a lot of work. So to break that mold, to see that vision and both be on the same page is incredible.
The unique thing is the vision we had then
Yeah,
is what the firm is now.
Same vision today.
yeah. Did you?
We were very different. He and I are opposites.
Yeah,
But on
totally.
on that one point, we are unified.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You know what's cool, and the reason why I thought Ed was a great partner
Yeah.
was, for one obvious reason, is he was very into all the regulations, all the rules on the audit side.
Yeah.
And I knew enough about tax to be dangerous at the time. And I was more the outside person doing
Yeah.
the business development. I had developed a specialty in doing condo co-ops, so I was at that firm. And
Right.
I think we generated about 100 clients before we left.
Wow.
It was close to that. And it was kind of interesting because Ed was relying on me
Yeah.
for my tax skills, and I was relying on him for his, not only his audit and accounting skills, but his managerial qualities that he had with dealing with people. And it was really a perfect marriage.
Yeah.
you know?
Really, it's funny you say that because I saw it when I met you guys when I started working there. I feel like that you were like the business development, expert.
I was able to convince him that I should play golf 3 or 4 days a week, and
And I agreed to
he
it.
agreed to it at the time.
But you know what? I mean, it was bringing the business in, right? Because I think one of the challenges when you partner up, there's so many ways to go in our conversation here, but I love this fact here because when you're building something, you're partnering up with someone, it is a rocky road.
I will tell you, both of us work crazy hours. There's many nights that I would fall asleep in bed with files all over the place because I
Oh,
was
man.
working till 1 or 2 in the morning,
Yeah.
but I enjoyed it. You're doing it for yourself.
Yes.
And that's the key.
When you guys started, was it an office space? Did you immediately get an office space, or how did you guys kind of get started structurally?
We planned it, we found a small office space, we rented it.
Yeah.
I remember when we first started, first couple of weeks, we were sitting on the floor,
Wow.
making phone calls and eating McDonald's or whatever we could find.
Wendy's usually, we were a little higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Higher caliber.
But waiting for the furniture to come in, and we started with 2 little spaces. And
Wow.
like everything, by the time you get it outfitted, we're already outgrown it.
Wow.
So we kept trying to take more and more space, and again, we both had the same work ethic at the time, and
Yeah.
we relied on each other's strengths to keep us moving forward.
That's amazing.
We eventually found a building, created a partnership with a developer, a client, and somebody else
Wow.
to build the building that we're now in. And I remember when it was a 30,000 square foot building.
Wow.
We planned to take 2,500 square feet
Yeah.
of that whole building, and the rest we'd rent out.
Wow.
By the time we were ready to move in, we needed 7,500 feet. And by the time we furnished that, we needed 15,000 square feet. So it
Wow.
just, it happened really fast.
Astronomical growth. So, in the beginning, you said you had 100 clients lined up already?
Yeah, the practice was growing. It all started with my next door neighbor where I lived in Hillsborough. Her name was Lynn Lobas. She was the head of Community Associations Institute,
Oh.
which was the trade association for condos and co-ops.
Right.
And she convinced me, saying this would be a good idea if you specialized in this. And today we still have my first client that I ever got
Wow.
out in Clinton, New Jersey, and it was a great idea. We ran with it, and at the time, I'll give them credit. They gave me the latitude and ability to build that practice. And
Wow.
We were in the right place at the right
Yeah.
time for that industry.
Yeah.
you know what was cool is I had the pleasure and honor to meet an attorney called Wendell Smith, who was with Greenbaum Rowe.
Yeah.
And they were the leaders in development of condominium associations
Wow.
back in the 70s. And we were getting 2 or 3 new clients a week.
Wow.
It was
That's unreal.
crazy.
So when did 1983, you launched the firm.
Yes.
When did you hire your first hire?
Well, right away,
Wow.
we needed an admin, a secretary, which we.
Part-time.
Part-time. Okay. And then what about the first accountant? When did you hire the first accountant?
It was probably within a few months of when we started.
Yeah.
I would think.
Wow. That's tremendous growth.
You know what happens, once you go out on your own, all of
Yeah.
a sudden people look at you a little differently
It's
than,
true.
for me, I was a manager, and now as a partner,
Yeah.
the door's kind of open for a lot of opportunities.
That's for sure.
And when we're out there, promoting ourselves, and you're new and you're eager, people come and want to
It's
join
true.
you.
With everything that I'm doing as well, again, it's one of those things where when you're in the employment world and you're working for someone and you have that sense of security, you have that consistent paycheck, it's coming in, $7,000, $8,000 a month. When you break that mold and you go out on your own, it's like, I always describe it as like this field, this wide open field. You can go in any direction, and you dictate how you make the money. Instead of a steady paycheck that's coming in and everything, you're saying, I want to go in this direction, and that's going to make me this money, maybe, or maybe not. And you can try, and you're shaking up the world. It sounds like you guys really kind of started making a big name for yourselves pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Well, we did live on credit cards for a couple of months.
Oh, yeah?
Well, it was planned out, though. We knew what our cash flow was. We had some bank financing in the very beginning.
Okay, that's good.
And it all just seemed to work.
That's awesome. When you say bank finance, you mean like an equity line? Or
No, it was a bank loan. Back
Okay.
then, it was a little easier to get bank loans
okay.
than it is today. But we had a friendly banker. We made our case. We showed them our projections, and they
Wow.
lent
Gave
us
us a
money.
line of credit.
Gave you a line of credit. So, and now the interesting thing, and one of the most unique things that I want to say, is that first accountant that you hired is still with the firm today, and you
Yes.
guys are about to celebrate your 40
Right.
years here when
Next
was
year,
yeah.
March, September?
September.
September.
Oh, I remember that. That's weird. So September, you guys are going to celebrate 40 years next year, and that first hire is still with you.
It's amazing how many people, we look at the partner list, how many were interns.
Yeah. Wow.
There are so many of them, partners and managers that started with us as interns
Yeah.
and have stayed with us.
And that is a testament to your culture, which is in part why I'm really excited to have you guys on. And I just want to pick your brains, and I'll start with you, Ed. What do you attribute the success? What do you attribute that? How do you build something like that?
Well, I remember way back, she said, I'm not a marketing person. I'm never going to market. And today, she's one of our leading. That has happened so many times with different people, partners, managers, that they say in the beginning when they come here, I'm not bringing business. I'm just going to put the hours in, and
Yeah.
it all turns around. Because once you get it in your blood,
Yeah.
and you want to do it, it's so enjoying landing a new client,
Yeah.
making them happy, making
Yeah.
them satisfied, and working with them.
And the way I'm sensing it from you is it's really the fact that you empower your staff. You empower them from day one to do what they want to do. And when they were ready, they just did it because they felt like they could do it at your firm with no risk to their career, to their whatever. It was their own book that they were writing. And I think that is in part what differentiates the firm and why people have stick around so far. But what about you? I'll turn it over to you.
So a few things. Number one, just on that topic, our motto is we want you to soar with your strengths. We want you to do what you like and what you do best. And usually those two go hand in hand. If you like it, you're going to do well in it.
Sure.
We don't slot people into positions. We let them evolve into the kind of work that they want to do. And that's why we have tax guy went into IT. And when
Right.
new people come on, we don't say you have to be audit or you have to be tax.
Yeah.
We say we'll give you both, see what resonates with you, what you like, what you do well. And we're able to have people do that. What ends up happening is all of their great strengths come out
Yeah.
when they're doing what they love and what they like and what they're good at. So the great strengths come out and they achieve amazing things by having that happen. And the firm grows because they've all achieved that.
Right.
The other things that, there's two other things that I think about when it comes to employees. One is being empathetic.
Mm.
I always try to put myself in somebody else's shoes and
Yeah.
how are they going to react? What are they feeling? How do they view what I'm going to do?
Right.
And the other thing I think has kept us in the forefront is we're extremely agile. We don't have partners who are saying, well, it's not going to work. We never did it that way, or
Yes.
I don't want to change. They have been open to all of the things we've embraced and tried in the firm. So we're agile. When COVID came,
Yeah.
it was like nothing really impacted our ability to operate. It was flipping a switch and everybody was home working. We were probably one of the first, when we first started, that took working moms who worked part-time.
Wow.
Because we've said if you can give us 20 hours or 30 hours, it's better than zero.
Yeah,
And you're
that's
talented,
amazing.
so come with us. Other firms, you had to work some schedule, you had to commit to something, or you couldn't work part-time.
Yeah. I remember this, and interestingly enough, so I started with you guys in November of 2016, and I was there until 2018. And during my time, I mean, you were already, the work from home was already
Right.
a thing. I mean, you know,
Yes,
this was
yes.
for you guys, COVID was not the accelerator into being working from home. You were already working from home. Now, one of the things that I loved to see, and I found very interesting, is nobody was against it, even though, like, maybe for you guys growing up in the accounting world, working from home was not even a thing. You know, you must be dressed, you know, nicely, sharply. I'm sure that there were suits back then that were mandatory when you were working at the bigger firms, right? And, you know, to go from that to casual work from home takes an adjustment that, as you said, you're agile and you are open to it. And I think being open to it is what made you guys this successful. Would you attribute to that?
Yeah, and I think the partners all see the benefits of the things that we do
Yeah.
and are ready to embrace whatever we may suggest. We'll debate it.
Yeah.
We'll have our friendly debates, but they move on the side of being progressive, and let's not go with, you know, the old dogma. Let's really think about what makes sense for us and what can work and what resonates both with our clients and with our staff.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
there's actually another thing that we let our people do is talk. When people say it's an open door policy, it really, in a lot of cases, it's not.
Yep.
We bring people involved very early in their careers, working on different committees, coming up with ideas, and we listen to their ideas.
Right.
And more often than not, we're adopting what they're coming up with.
Yeah.
And it makes them feel important, because I think everybody that has a job, they want to feel important.
It's true.
And
Purpose.
I think that's why we do that, and we enjoy doing it.
Yeah, and it's incredible. And again, the testament is everybody who is starting off, it's very rare nowadays in general to see someone starting off as an intern and going all the way to partner in one firm. Quite frankly, you know, in the way I see the trajectory, having been now at 7 firms, you know, because to me, I was always looking for the perfect firm. And in my mind, I feel like I just want to be on my own, you know, but I tried. You know, I went here, I went there, tried a culture here, culture there. Everybody says, oh, we have the best culture, you know, but where I thought it was most cultivated was at WilkinGuttenplan, where it spoke to itself. You took your staff out on your boat, the gutsy, that's right. You know,
Still do.
Still do, yeah, that's right. And, you know, you have all these events, and everything is centered around the people.
Right.
And the work follows, and I think happy staff lead to happier clients,
Yep.
lead to more referrals, right, and lead to inflow of more staff,
Right.
right? That was my opinion. It's staff first mentality, and I felt like you guys had that.
Two things on it. One is, also what is weaved through our culture is a culture of trust. We trust our people are going to do what's best for, we tell them, do what's best for yourself, do
Yeah.
what's best for the firm, and do what's best for the community.
Yeah,
Think about those 3 things, and we trust that they'll do all of those things. We moved to, just recently, an unlimited work options policy,
Nice.
which is you can work anywhere, anytime, and you can tell us how many hours you want to work. Just commit to a number.
wow,
You don't have to work 60, 80 hours a week.
wow,
Tell us the number, we'll plan around it. We may need 3 people instead of 2 because
Yeah.
people want to work a little less these days. But we're agile enough to say, pick your work option and we'll make it work in our firm.
wow. What, you know, I love that, and I think that is a big part of where the industry is headed. And having you guys here who have gone through a lot of the change, have seen 1986 tax code change, worked through that, especially 3 years after starting, you know, and all these other things that have happened over the years. Where do you see the accounting where do you see the accounting industry going? And how does a firm grow and roll with the punches, so to speak, instead of being stuck in the old ways? Because I've seen that too. So I'll start with you.
Well, I think the most critical thing that's facing the accounting industry today is the shortage of staff. It's become almost I think, at a critical point at this point.
I agree.
And COVID actually helped us because it took away that vision of everybody has to at least be close enough to the office to come in for meetings once in a while.
True.
So COVID kind of forced us into opening up our firm to the whole country. Today we're in 15 different states, 3 different countries, and
Wow.
and it's kind of cool when we actually have an tax manager who lives in Puerto Rico, and
Wow.
3 or 4 times a year we'll have firm events, and we'll fly them in and fly our people in and let them stay
Amazing.
up at a hotel, and so we get to meet people face to face. But
Wow.
but,
It opened up the borders, so to speak.
We have a policy, anybody who works remote,
Yeah.
they're coming in at least twice a year, and in the summer, we bring them up with their family.
Wow.
And we put them up for several days with their family around
Incredible.
firm events, and in the winter, we'll fly them up for our holiday party. And then
Nice.
throughout the year, if they need to come, or their team wants them to come for a few days,
Yeah.
we don't hesitate to fly them in and be part of the person-to-person
Yeah.
piece of what we do.
That's incredible. So what about from your perspective? Now, just as a side note to the listeners, Ed Guttenplan has been the president, right, of the NJCPA, is that
Yes.
correct? For just until when, 2019?
I don't
Okay.
remember.
you missed out on COVID.
Yeah, you missed out on COVID, that's right. So, as the president of the New Jersey CPA and all your other accolades that you've accomplished, having been so in tune with the accounting industry, what would you say are the challenges facing the accounting industry from your perspective?
Sure. I'm also on the AICPA Governing Council.
Oh, wow.
I just got back from a meeting there, and as Ed said, the real challenge is the pipeline for the accounting profession. There's a lot of things we need to do as a profession to
Yeah.
address the pipeline, including getting the word out and salaries and a whole number of things.
Yeah.
But we have to look into the future. If you look at birth rates and you look at students in college, going to college, or students who less are going to college and
True.
even less are going into accounting.
True.
So what do we need to do as a profession to address the pipeline issue?
Yeah.
And secondly, as a firm, how do we have to think about resources going forward in order to fill the demand? And it's going to be doing things on a whole number of fronts. Automation, we have lots of attention in our firm being paid on innovation in the IT arena and in internal operations,
Yeah.
and other kinds of services and labor sources for
Right.
providing the services.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, so I have my own thoughts on the pipeline issue. Because to me, what has caused it, in my opinion, I think that it's multifaceted, right? I think that the 150 credit hours certainly are a part of the issue, but not as much to me what people are associating the accounting industry with. What are they associating it with? Extremely high hours,
Right.
not that high of a pay in relation to the hours, right? And I don't want to say toxic, but not a very friendly culture that has accumulated, again, from my experience. They just had this old school mentality, abusive, yelling, this kind of culture. Now, obviously, not at WilkinGuttenplan. I never experienced that there. But, that I think people are now going online, doing their research and finding that and shying away from the accounting industry. So I'll start with you. What do you think is the reason as to why there's less accounting students?
Well, I think you hit on it. One is, some of the surveys indicate starting salaries aren't as high sometimes as you can get in industry, and that's a more recent occurrence. Students are weighing, they think it's valuable to be a CPA, but what's the price I have to pay to do that?
Yeah.
And in the short run, there is a price to pay. In the long run, economically, you'll be way better off if you go the CPA route.
True.
But it's hard to talk to a young student in school that, has to pay for a 5th year to make the case and take the CPA exam.
Right.
I think we need to do a better job of telling students what a great profession it is.
Yes.
And yeah, there is a bit of a hurdle to get over in the beginning, but it's well worth it over the term of your career in the way of a payback.
Yeah, and that is in part a major reason for my branding, the Fun CPA. The Fun CPA is a movement we need to be promoting, and that is the whole point of what I'm doing, podcast, YouTube things, going out there doing presentations. I'm going to Rutgers presenting to 500 students in 2 weeks about the industry. And promoting the industry as something that is not regimented, old school, boring, but can be fun. So what about from your perspective? What would you say?
Well, I will tell you, I've always found the accounting profession fun.
Yeah.
I've never been bored a day in my life in the industry.
Anybody who works with him will tell you it's fun.
Yeah.
I try to make it fun, but I think that what you need to do is get beyond I'm working on numbers all day long and
Yeah.
doing that, but look at the people you're working for, who you're helping at the clients,
Yep.
and absorb it all in and not just make it about doing the numbers.
Absolutely.
Pick your head up every once in a while, look around and talk to people.
Yeah. And truthfully, I think that this is where COVID did do a little bit of damage to the industry. One of my favorite things when I was in the industry, when I was, working at the firms, was to get up, to go get lunch, to grab a couple staff, to grab a couple seniors or friends, whatever. Let's go get some lunch, let's go get some food, connect, chat. And I think when it comes to COVID and what that did when it broke everybody out and made them all go into their homes, now a staff person who just came out of school, who's struggling, who used to have the camaraderie of that office, now is having all the negative parts of the accounting industry, hours, a lot of the positives, the camaraderie, the fun, the interaction, right? So what would your recommendation be to firm leaders today to make the industry more appealing to, I'll start with you.
Well, besides talking to kids in high school and in college to tell them about the benefits of the career, we just have to explain all of the good things that happen. I know one of the things we do in our firm, we have a very robust team building program where we're getting people together,
Right.
and we do it in person and virtually.
Nice.
And we throttle it based upon what the participants want to do. But we spend a lot of energy getting people together, even virtually. Some of the events we've had virtually have been really a lot of fun and people have connected.
Right.
And they're learning to connect virtually on a social level, not just on a work level.
Yeah. Amazing.
But, everybody has a different view of how they want to work.
Yeah.
And maybe our story is a little different, but we have to tell the story and hope we can have students in college see that there's a real opportunity
Yeah.
to enjoy it and not have to work, those onerous schedules that they sometimes hear about.
Yeah. And what about you? What do you think is some of the firm leaders should be thinking about,
Well,
to promote the industry?
I think too many firms think about their main vision is get bigger,
Mhm.
grow, acquire firms, get more clients, without a purpose or why they're doing it.
Yeah.
And they lose track of, their people as people.
Right.
And they just think of them as billable and chargeable hours.
Yeah.
You
That's
got to
incredible.
focus on them as being people. And one of the things we're going through now is we're trying to determine, what are the right size clients for our firm?
Right.
What are the ones that our staff enjoy working on? And those that they don't enjoy working on, considering
Right.
ways of possibly not, we're forcing them to work on it.
Right.
And we
I love that.
listen to our clients and our staff, and if they tell us they don't want to work on something, there's a reason behind that.
Right.
So I think being open, again, as Ed said earlier, to the fact that they're people and listening to them and making them a part of the decision-making process, whether we get big or don't get big. And you need to grow because a firm needs to grow only because you have people working their way up through the ranks. And if you don't grow, you're not going to have a place for them
Yeah.
to be a part of leadership.
Absolutely.
So there's a certain amount of growth you have to have, but don't do growth just for the sake of growth.
Yeah, I love that. That's some great advice. And I kind of want to start wrapping it up here. This is such an incredible opportunity to speak to you guys. You guys have built a firm that has transcended decades at this point, and it's not stopping. It's already self-operational. You are phenomenal leaders that care about your staff. from day one, and just focus in on that. And I think your advice and your suggestions here to keep the industry going is phenomenal. And I'm noting that down because I'll be bringing that up in that presentation that I do to this. But what I want to have you guys leave us with, us the listeners, everybody's listening, I'll pick each of your brain with the following question, which is, I get a lot of messages, LinkedIn, whatever it is, because I do a lot of talking about the accounting industry. And the messages are, it's a senior in some firm that's burned out, right? And they're starting to really struggle with the fact that they chose the right career, that whatever it is. I want you guys to, pretend like I'm that senior person, the senior associate. And, how do you get past that? What would your advice be to someone who is struggling in the industry now, and maybe it's a bad firm fit, maybe whatever it is, what would your advice be to them? How would they get through that kind of to continue on?
I think I would first say, give it a chance with the right firm. And if you came to us, you'd have unlimited work options, and we try to find out what you do best and have you do a lot of that. Give it a try, because the CPA credential and the CPA profession is very exciting and tremendous growth opportunities, and it's a great place to be.
I agree.
Give it a try before you jump into something else that you think is going to solve the overwhelm problem.
Agreed.
We're always on the lookout. We don't want anybody to be overwhelmed. That's why we have this unlimited work options policy. So I would tell them to
Give that a thought.
give us a chance and let us show you what we can do. We've actually had a few boomerang employees also. They go somewhere else. 3 months later, they're back.
Yep.
6 months later. You had quite a few of those.
Yeah. And what about you, Ed? What do you think?
It's funny, I think it might have been before Ed came to our previous firm. I was kind of disillusioned with what was going on, and actually took an interview with a company and got an offer for a job for a controllership.
Oh, wow.
And
So you were going to leave public.
I was going to totally leave public, and I thought about it, and just going to the same place, doing the same thing, day and week after, and be subject to one boss.
Yep.
And it just, I thought about it, I says, that doesn't sound very exciting.
No.
And I came back, and thank God I found this
amazing,
young
right?
man at the time, and he
Yeah.
fit everything that I thought would be the right kind of people to be
Incredible.
partners with, and it's amazing. Today, I can't believe it's been 39 years.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And we're still together and we still like each other.
This is good. I can see that. Yeah, I mean, maybe at the opposite ends of the table, you can see.
You know what's very interesting is I think we've socialized twice because we have totally different interests.
Yeah.
Probably the only thing that
Yeah.
we kind of enjoy doing together, once or twice a year, he takes me out on his boat, we go fishing.
There you go. Fishing is
And
great.
we
We're going
had-
fishing on Thursday.
We had a very successful fish time last year, and
There you go.
I look forward to it again. But we're different, but
Yeah.
have the same vision and drive
I love that.
to be the best.
I love that. Well, let me wrap it up, guys. This has been fantastic. Thank you again to the two Eds. Two Eds are better than one. Thank you, Ed Wilkin, Ed Guttenplan, for coming in. You guys have built an incredible firm. $20 million plus in revenue, correct? At this
A little
point,
more than that.
a little more than that. We'll go with 20 million plus. And to build something like that from nothing in 1983 is unreal. So thank you guys for being thought leaders and incredible to your staff.
Well, Yuri, thank you for this opportunity, and
My pleasure.
and I will tell you, we've been very good partners together and trying to
Yeah.
help each other. And
Yep.
you and I have had breakfast a couple of times. We've tried to refer business to each other, and with some
Absolutely.
success. And we look forward to helping each other in the future.
Absolutely, it was a pleasure. And by the way, you were one of the first people who went after my own and said, let's go get breakfast, and I appreciate that. So thank you guys so much.